everybody, it's Cindy. Welcome to Bnow Coffee Chat with
Hey, Cindy.
Hi, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm good.
You look great, girl. You look really good.
Thank you. I feel really good. Every time we get together and talk, Cindy, it just raises our energy level.
It
And
does.
I know that you've got some stories to tell that, or a really great story that is going to lift everyone up. And talking about how when we focus on something and we just don't give it up, it has to happen. So
It
I'm looking
has to happen. It's the universal law that it has to
It
happen.
is. It is.
Yes. So my daughter was pregnant with my grandson, Marcus, and she was ready to deliver that baby anytime. I
Mhm.
needed to be in Italy
Mm.
because she married an Italian and they have a home now in Pistoia. They live most of the time in Houston, but they still have their house in Pistoia, Italy. I had to get there. I had to. I
Mhm.
got a ticket from her grandmother, which means that I was on standby.
Ah,
I got there very, very early. Like flight left at 8 o'clock, but I was there at 5:30 at LAX. I had to get to New York to get my connecting flight to Rome. So I got there early.
mhm.
And I was sitting there just kind of waiting. And all of a sudden the screen came up, flight full.
Ah,
When you're on that standby list, you don't want to see the screen say flight full.
absolutely.
It wasn't long after that that we heard the announcement. Anyone who will give up their seat on this flight can have a free ticket anywhere. Uh-oh. So I pulled out my gratuity rock, which I happened to have. I was kind of into that at the time. Remember the gratuity rocks?
Gratitude rock,
A gratitude rock. And I had it. I had it in my hand.
right?
And I said, thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Not long after that, there was another announcement. We will give a first class seat to anywhere, to anyone who will give up their seat on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. Okay. So I see all the people lining up to get on the plane, and they all had tickets in their hand, one by one. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. And I watched every single person walk through that door. And then what happened? The big silver doors shut.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. When you do a mantra, Jeannie, which that is when you repeat something over and over again,
Yes.
it discounts any negative thinking because you're not allowing, I hope I get on the flight.
I need to be on the
I need to be
plane.
on the flight. God, please, can I get on the flight? No. You thank in advance because when you thank in advance, it's as if it's already done.
Yes.
It was very bleak. That door was shut. People were all walking away. And all of a sudden, I heard my name. My married name is Cynthia Buckingham. They brought me in the door where the pilots come in.
Hello.
And I had that ticket in my hand. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. I walked to my seat, kissing that ticket. Thank you, God, for putting me on this flight. And I let the whole plane know that I was so happy, and people were laughing at me. I don't care. I don't care. And it was a middle seat on the row of three.
We don't care.
but we didn't care. The people sitting next to me were also on standby, but that was a couple. And
Right.
technically they had seniority over me because they worked for the, standby is by seniority of how high up you are in that organization. For instance, if you're a gold member or a platinum member or whatever, right? But they were a couple and it was only me.
Right.
Got on that flight, made it in time. Julie delivered a beautiful, big, almost 10-pound, no, I think he was 10 pounds, baby in Italy within a day and a half, 2 days later.
So I just love that story because Neville Goddard, and some people are very familiar, and he goes by Neville, or he went by Neville. And this was like mid-century, last century, in the mid-50s, 60s. He was from Barbados. He was one of 12 children living in New York City, and it was miserable, and a lot of things were going wrong. He had no money. He actually was a dancer. He said, I would have danced for a sandwich, but he said nobody was hiring, and he was just depressed. And he kept saying, I need to go. I want to go to my mom's house in Barbados. Well, he had met this guy from Ethiopia who was a rabbi. And his name was Mohammed, and Mohammed just taught him about how to focus your mind. It's like you're saying, give thanks ahead of time. And so he was telling Mohammed, I really want to go to Barbados and be, with my family and my mom. And Mohammed said, you are in Barbados. And he went, no, I'm not. I'm here in this little apartment in New York City. He said, you are in Barbados. And he said, I don't get what you're saying. And he said, what I want you to do is I want you to be so profoundly grateful for this. I want every night before you go to bed, I want you to lie in your bed. I want you to get quiet, see yourself in your mom's house, hear the waves of the water, smell the beautiful flowers and trees, and be there. So he said, I want you to do this every night. So he did. And he was like, the next morning he'd get up, well, here I am. I'm still in New York City. And Muhammad was not having any of it. And he said, be in Barbados. He said, well, I checked into it. And he said, there's no flights going right now. And the only thing that's going are ships, and they have to stop in different ports. But I don't have any money for that. And he went, you are in Barbados. You got there by ship and you went first class. And he was like, okay. So he woke up the next morning and there was a telegram under his door, Cindy, and his brother, one of his brothers, said, we miss you so much. I have prepaid a ticket for you, first class, on this ship. And oh, by the way, here's $50 for food and for clothes, which was a lot of money at that time. And so he was all excited, and he went down to the dock to, make sure that was all valid. And they said, oh, yes. And they said, but, Mr. Goddard, we're sorry to tell you, on the first leg going into the port of St. John, we only have the lower class, but you can come up and eat lunch and dinner and be on the deck, but you're going to have to sleep in, the other. He was like, I don't care. So he went back and he was all excited, and he told Muhammad, and Muhammad was furious. And he went, I told you, you went first class too. And he was like, there's no pleasing this guy. So the day of the sailing, he went down into the dock, and he was standing at the gangplank, and the porter who was checking him in said, oh, Mr. Goddard, we have news for you. Someone canceled, and you have a first class ticket the whole way to Barbados. And so in this thing, he talked about faith, and he said, faith is devotion to an idea that you have decided on. Now, I love that description of faith. In the Bible, it says faith is, that which is not yet seen. And that's what you did. Thank you, God, for getting me on this flight. Thank you, God. You knew that you were going to be in Rome. You knew that you were going to be there for the baby, and you didn't know how. You just let God sort it out. And so that's exactly when we don't give up on something, when we focus on something, we let God show off. And I want to tell you something. I got a message today from a friend in Dallas, and I asked her if I could use this in our coffee chat and use her name. And she said, yeah, her name's Debbie Martin. She said, I would love to get credit for this. And she said this: when God sends a wind, you'd better put up your sails. That's what I said to a friend when God sent an unexpected business opportunity in my life. I knew it was a wind from God because all the energy around it, that it starts to rapidly move you in another direction, was proof of that. People came out of nowhere and said, yes, I want that. God elevates you and puts you in a position of rapid change. Now, don't you love that? I mean, so she didn't know how it was going to happen, and she didn't even know it was going to happen, but she recognized the wind of God saying, and she was like, I'm going to raise my sails and catch this wind. And that's what she did.
Exactly. And so many times, Jeannie, people get into their depression. For instance, this man who was so depressed when this Muhammad told him, you are there first class, you are there.
And you're not settling for steerage.
Exactly. But
my first class.
So he kind of went in a halfway place.
That's right.
What I hear. And even in that halfway place, as long as somebody, so if you're in a halfway place, and this is what we do with Bnow.
Yes.
If you're in that halfway place, we will help you. We will be your Muhammad. We will be that for you. Because even in the halfway place, and considering that it can be true,
right,
will push you over the edge.
Well, and absolutely. And we hold people up, we help them lift their sails. But the other point is that he did the work at nighttime. He didn't really believe it, but it was like, okay, well, whatever. And so he would go to bed every night and he would be in his mom's house. He could smell the smells and the flowers and hear the surf and he was relaxing and he went to sleep. And in that state, it imprinted on him. So, the mind of God always says yes. Years ago, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has become quite adept and famous and all of that, but after the movie, The Secret, I guess he was in The Secret, and he came to the Unity Church in Dallas, and I went to go see him, and he was talking about, he said, let's just imagine this is the mind of God and it's a light. And it always says yes. But here's what we do. We're up, we're down, we're sick, we're well, we're poor, we're abundant. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And every time you pass that, it says yes, 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 yes. Because people are like, well, why am I poor sometimes? And why am I rich sometimes? But what he said is, if you can still your mind, which is what this guy did, Neville did at nighttime, I am there. So when we are then, and you hold it there, which is the purpose of meditation, be still and know that I am God. Be still. So if we go home, has anyone ever, and I have certainly done this, driven home and don't know how I got there, because my mind was something I don't even remember driving home, but my mind is chick, 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 and let's just say that we're all pissed off at somebody at work or, whatever, but we're just like focused on that. And the mind of God says, well, let's give her more of that. That's what she's ordering. Or we sit mindlessly in front of some kind of violence or, something bad. And we're flat on. And the mind of God said, oh yeah, let's give her more of that. It's not reward. It's not punishment, Cindy. It is just a reflection. So this is why when we can get still and hold in our mind, like you were holding that gratitude rock and holding that in your mind, you saw yourself on that plane. You didn't know how. And everything said, no, it's not happening. They're closing the doors. Guess what? You were there. So the mind of God says yes, always. And I love this discussion because when we can hold that in our mind and get still Be still and know that I am God. I am, and those are the creative words. I am so sick and tired of this. If you say so, I am well taken care of. I am protected and loved. Yes. So this is just such a wonderful opportunity for people to say, what am I holding in my mind? Am I begging, pleading, disbelieving, or am I convinced that I have asked, believing, and I believe?
Absolutely. So was it the rock?
What's that?
Was it the rock? It wasn't the rock. The rock that I was holding.
Oh, well, you put it, it was the physical manifestation,
It
but
was
the
a
rock,
tool.
yeah, it was like this guy, Neville, going to bed, seeing himself there. Yeah, but that was your physical manifestation.
Yes, which it could be your telephone. It could be your shoe. It could be anything to anchor you into a positive thought, but the rock is a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well,
a reminder to be in gratitude, to always be in gratitude.
That's it. So don't give up. Decide what you want. Stay faithful to it. Be convinced of it, even in the face of everything saying, well, how's that going to happen? That's never going to happen. It's like, sit down, shut up. I'm giving thanks for this. And honestly, it has to happen.
I love you.
It's a great story and great discussion, Cindy. And we'll see you all later.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.